Welcome to another edition of the Chief Audit Executive Briefing. Hey, we're already into October, and that means we're also in fourth quarter. So usually around this time, there's usually about three things that are on your mind. The first one is budgets. The second is CPE, and the third one is audit planning. So I wanted to talk briefly about each of these three this week. So the first thing with budgets, we always have to go through this budgeting process. And usually, again, like I said, it's usually done towards the end of the year to set our budgets for next year. Now, what I find with most people is they run out of budget before the end of the year. So here's a little tip for you. Add a little extra to your budget this year so that you don't run out. Because like I said, I've actually talked with quite a few people, and even in September, most of their budget was used up for the year. So here's what I would suggest, especially for you personally. Make sure that you've set aside at least another $25,000 this next year for your personal development. Because again, sometimes when the end of the year comes around, there's an opportunity that comes up and the funds aren't there. So why do I say $25,000? Well, that would give you plenty of money to be able to join the Chief Audit Executive Forum, as well as do a couple of other things that you need to do for your own personal development. Now, that's just related to you, but again, in general, if you can, try to increase your budgets this next year so that you're not running out before the end of the year. And I can go on and on and on about budgets, but don't have the time today because, like I said, they're actually fake numbers, but so many companies actually use them as a hard control and use that as a way to actually restrict what you're allowed to do. So make sure to give yourself plenty of room in the budget, more so because, again, most of the time you ask for one thing and finance comes back and asks you to lower it. So make sure it's well above where you would really like it to be. So that worked for me quite a bit. The second one is about CPE. So again, most of you that are certified, you need to have continuing professional education for your various certifications. So I know I just got an email actually today from the IIA reminding me to submit my CPE before the end of the year. So take some time this week and figure out where you are at in your hours. So a lot of certifications require 40 hours a year. See how much you already have and what you need to get this last quarter. So make sure to do that for yourself, but also encourage your team to do the same thing. Because inevitably what ends up happening is I find that there's a lot of people, especially the last week or two of the year, they're spending usually their winter holidays actually doing training at the last minute. And so try to think about that now and get it done in October and November so you're not scrambling at the end of the year. Now, there's a really great resource for you on that, and it's called cRisk Academy. cRisk Academy. So I'll leave the link down below, but cRisk Academy is actually the #1 on-demand and webinar training platform for internal auditors. And many of you may not even know about it. That's why I'm sharing this with you. Because they offer the on-demand and webinar options, especially for year-end CPE, it's very easy to go out, sign up for a course, and actually get to watch videos to be able to complete your CPE instead of doing some things like I've had to do before where you end up reading magazines or reading things and taking quizzes, and that's just really kind of boring and a pain in the butt. So cRisk Academy makes it really easy for you. So like I said, if you need a few hours here towards the end, the link is down below in the email. Now, the last is about audit planning. And this is one of the areas where I do get a lot of questions from Chief Audit Executives, so I'm thinking you might have some questions too. So what I'm going to do, and the reason that I'm doing this week, is if you'll respond back to this email, reply to this email, let me know some of the topics or questions you have about annual audit planning, and I'll try to answer some of those this next week in the next video. Sometimes, again, I see kind of what some of the different audit shops are doing around the world, and so it can provide some context on that. But like I said, as far as kind of what others are doing, but if you have some specific questions as well, make sure and put that in there. So as an example, sometimes I'll get a question about, well, how do I align my audit plan to the ERM risk assessment? Because a lot of times there's a disconnect there. And there's actually some things that you can do for that. So that's just an example of a question. But like I said, reply back to me and let me know what questions you have so I can answer them in next week's video. So with that, have a great rest of your week. Make sure to check out all the links and everything below, and I'll talk to you next week.